Hi, how are you doing, dear Sensei? My name is Ayub Mahdi Idan. Uh, I'm just going to talk about ecofeminism theory. Ecofeminism is the study of women with nature, as we see in this picture. What is ecofeminism? Ecofeminism is a theory that comes from the prefix eco, which means ecology, the study of human beings with nature, and the word feminism that advocates the rights of women. Ecofeminism combines the basic feminist ideas of gender equality and revolution of non-patriarchal system. Ecofeminism brings these principles, commitment to the community and understanding of the relationships that have arisen between women and nature. In particular, this theory stresses on how patriarchal society views both women and nature, or people with nature. First appearing of feminism in 1917, as we see in this picture. Who is the founder of this theory? The founder of this theory was a French feminist writer, François Dibon, by 1974. All the ecofeminists at that time, they just wanted to have the kind of world that is perfect, not imperfect. And what is the purpose of ecofeminism? Ecofeminism is a theory that was developed in USA by such female writers or activist professional writers at that time. They did so much kind of workshops, and they just wanted to put their fingers on women's dignity. They pointed out the issues of the women at that time. Women and nature are useless, chaotic, and irrational. Otherwise, men are useful, capable of controlling difficulties. Men are always control everything. Pre-ecofeminists then agreed that a solution to each constituency's problems would allow them to lose their social standings. And the solution is one of the women at that time, her name is Rosemary Ruther, emphasizes that every woman should have freedom like men they have. Scholars accepted her suggestions, put their hands on patriarchal attitude at that time, and one of the great feminist theorists at that time, her name is Eunice King, wrote an article. She asked all Americans to understand how they would manipulate the world and intensify exploitation of women through their system of belief. The idea of ecofeminism was endorsed and expanded philosophically with the help of King's paper or article. Here we have the picture of Eunice King. We have radical ecofeminism and cultural ecofeminism, both developed in late 19. Radical ecofeminism. First of all, let's understand what does it mean, radical ecofeminism. It asserts that the prevailing patriarchal culture leads nature with women to decrease. To extend, radical ecofeminism expands on the argument of initial ecofeminists that patriarchal dominance needs to be explored in order to put an end to the relations around women and nature. The forms in which women and nature have been associated with negative or commutative qualities are of special interest to some theorists. While men have been seen as able to establish order, this division of features promotes women's and nature's production for inexpensive work and money. Cultural ecofeminists, firstly, they argue that females are more familiar with nature due to their sex roles, such as family, nurses, and food suppliers, and to their biological features, such as breastfeeding and lactating. They believe some factors allow women to be more sensitive. Okay, we have two kind of picture about cultural ecofeminism. What they want, ecofeminists, is that they just need a kind of picture like the right hand, that we have female emotion nature, human male nature. Both of them, they are equal with each other. Okay, the role of religion in ecofeminism. We have another point. This kind of point is about cultural ecofeminism in the eye of religion. Cultural ecofeminism has its origins in nature-based beliefs, goddesses, and worship of nature as a means of salvation of faith, as well as the role of females in that faith. Ecofeminism was not supported by all feminists. Some thought, or some of them, they just emphasize on faith, founded on evolution. The others, they just believe in Western traditional religions in harmony with nature. For example, some females have been worrying that cultural ecofeminism would actually reinforce gender roles and may result in more oppression. All these classes often varied in the romanticism, nature, and positions that different behaviors, for example, vegetarianism, might have to play in the implementation of the values of ecofeminism. As a consequence, theory has evolved and developed to reflect these differences, and most ecofeminists themselves embrace the various meanings and implementations available under the broad heading of environmental feminism. Time goes on or by, ecofeminism's new shift. Females from developed countries alluded to the influence on their communities and environments of agricultural food processing, sweet shops, and hangar. The white ecofeminists have been accused of promoting this abuse through purchasing products produced through injustice. Contemporary ecofeminism must also be established to understand the very specific impact on women's social status of age, class, religion, and orientation. Future of ecofeminists. People from all over the world, they just want ecofeminism in their life, in their spiritual society, cultures, wherever they just wanted to have. They just want have ecofeminism in their careers, and how these values have been jeopardized by Western colonialism. Several ecofeminists often struggled with what they perceived to be bourgeois, partially to the movement, because ecofeminism tended to favor bourgeois women's understanding with homosexuality. In order to address this issue, a new school ecofeminism emphasizes that the value of queer philosophy must be integrated into the precepts of ecofeminism. And they argued that the campaign therefore must consider the fact that sexuality, and more precisely the solutions to this sexuality, are also patriarchal structures, while the ecofeminism is genuinely committed to dismantling processes of dominance and exploitation. Therefore, the restoration of the role and rights of women will also require the assessment of sexual distinctions, age, ethnicity, and gender inequalities. Then ecofeminist scholars, they argue that ecofeminism's extremely varied values were a big strength of the campaign. They recognize that the various meanings and implementations that often complement one another and often clash display the empowering and egalitarian phases of the revolution. They often extend to the significant common aspects of ecofeminism at separate campuses. They also suggest that ecofeminists are trying to establish philosophy and practice that understand the challenge of patriarchal and authoritarian structures. And they encourage the re-evaluation of science to understand the function of subjectivity and intuition. They also advocate the development of an increasingly beneficial modern paradigm that accepts all biological process. Lastly, through affirming and peaceful approach, they insist on addressing these issues. Okay. Selecting a literary work. Here we have a novel, Oryx and Craig by Margaret Atwood. In this novel, we have two female characters, Oryx, the lover of Craig, and Sharon, Jimmy's mom. Both they face many difficulties in the world. They struggle with their nature. They showed all the issues of females in the novel while they live in the nature. The writer depicts the picture of men, how they control and manage life, and women outside. They cannot be a leader because men did not let them. Conclusion: ecofeminism is the study of women and nature. It's a branch of feminism. It was developed by a feminist activist who was François Dobon. Ecofeminists investigate the influence of gender distinctions and illustrate the different ways in which people of social expectations assert unequal control over women and nature. All in all, it's about women with nature, and this theory just wanted to decrease the value of patriarchal system. Thank you so much.